Yo, what is up guys, a Ghost here, welcome back to another video, and in this one we're going to talk about some recent things that David Sirlin, the lead producer on the new Battlefield game, has been saying over on Twitter. And one of the most interesting things is that he is planning to cherry pick all of the best bits from past Battlefield games and bring those into the new game. And that has me cautiously optimistic, let's say, for the new game, because that is something that not only myself but all of you guys have been reiterating time and time again, that you want all of the best bits from previous games, because we all know that certain games did some things better than others, and they literally have the formula for a winning Battlefield game sat right in front of them. Now, he also had a lot more to say than just that, so we're going to go over some of the replies that he's been sending to people ever since the Battlefield Labs announcement. Before we begin though, as always, if you guys do enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any future Battlefield videos. There will be a lot of those to come over the next year, and as always, thank you guys so much for your support. So let's just begin with the original tweet here. Mo over on Twitter, he says, "I'm afraid of the physics of the upcoming Battlefield, especially the flying vehicles in Battlefield 2042. It was very bad, totally agree there, as if it were a phone game and there was no realism. Do the flying developers at DICE know about this?" And David replies here saying, "We're pretty well informed of what things were not appreciated in the last game, the one before that," so he's referring to Battlefield 2042 and then Battlefield 5, "and the other lot. We are looking to find the best possible cherry pick strategy for each area. You'll have to play to see what I mean." So we have seen tweets in the past, and I believe this was from Marcus Leto, who was originally heading up the brand new regionalized studios that were going to be working on this new Battlefield universe. They've since been shut down, but I do know that they were hard at work playing all the Battlefield games. So they were going back to BF3, Bad Company 2, BF4, BF1, BF5, pretty much every Battlefield game that you can still play. They were going back, playing them, and trying to find the magic of what made each individual game so special, and hopefully a lot of that feedback has been brought into the new title. And in a couple of minutes, I'll get into what I would like to see from the new Battlefield game and which parts of the old games I hope to see be brought over. But first, let's go over a couple more replies here from David, because they do really bring us a note of optimism for the next game. So here's another person. They say, "I've signed up for the Battlefield Labs. I'm liking the new community approach. I just hope it's not marketing ploy and some real good comes of it. I love being a part of the Battlefield 4 CTE back in the day. It was really insightful. I really hope Battlefield can get back to greatness. All the best for you and the team." And David actually chimed in here as well. He says, "Totally not a ploy. We are going to make sure the game hits the mark and works as well as it can be through playing it a lot." So obviously, David originally left DICE, back I think around Battlefield 5 time, when things started to get pretty bad there. I don't know the exact details behind his leaving, why that was, and why he came back, but I can only assume that he left because he wasn't happy with the company. He probably left because he wasn't happy with the management, what EA was sort of demanding that they do, and seeing him come back probably is a very good sign, because that now means that he is going to be listened to. And a lot of the things that he has to say here, and he's probably one of the few people working at DICE that I do actually trust. Everything that he's put out and the work that he's done with past Battlefield games has been 2 thumbs up from me. All of the CTE stuff with Battlefield 4 going forward, I don't think he's really set a foot wrong yet. I don't want to big him up too much here and sound like a wet flannel or anything, but some of the stuff here is definitely encouraging. Here's another reply. Marco here says, "It is crucial that you gather info from the right sources though. Battlefield Labs is a great idea, but after seeing what some casual Battlefield players were doing with Portal, I believe it is essential to prioritize intel from Battlefield creators and OGs. Hope the game will give Battlefield 3 and 4 vibes." So what he's getting at here is that, of course, in Battlefield Portal, a lot of players basically made like 10,000% times increased damage, hardcore servers, but not real hardcore servers, not the kind of hardcore servers that those kind of players enjoy playing, but ones where literally a shot of anything will kill you. It completely threw the balance of the game out of whack. It wasn't an enjoyable experience, and of course people ended up going there to simply farm experience. And David answers once again here. He says, "Intel is one side of the data collection coin. The other is telemetry data, as in what are all players doing when they have a good time, does that change? Combine that with the soft feedback questions and direct communication, and you get a great data set to use for decision making. So it looks like he is going to be looking at a lot of different feedback channels. Whilst there are a decent amount of players who go on Twitter, they go on Reddit, they comment like you guys do here on my YouTube videos and give written feedback, you've got to remember that the vast majority of players, they're not doing that, right? They just hop online, they play the game, they log off, they never ever voice their opinions, and if they don't like the game, they're just going to uninstall it or not buy it and never tell a soul. And so they have to extrapolate as much data as they can just by looking at what people are doing in the game, and that's why I think the Battlefield Labs is going to go such a long way. They're going to be able to tell straight away what is popular, what's unpopular, what's working, what's overpowered. It's going to give them some really, really good feedback just from people playing the game alone. Now, when we saw the little 10-second teaser the other day from Battlefield Labs, I was, impressed. I think it looked good. I like the direction that they're taking the new Battlefield game, but I wasn't completely sold. To me, it sort of looks scripted. However, David Goldfarb, who worked on, I believe he worked on Bad Company 2 and also Battlefield 3, he chimed in on Twitter here saying, I was comparing the new Battlefield stuff to our first gameplay leak for Battlefield 3 13 years later. All our stuff was scripted. I don't think the new Battlefield stuff was. And David actually says ding ding, presumably meaning you're 100% correct there. So it sounds like what we saw wasn't scripted. Like, maybe I'm reading too much into this tweet here. It certainly looks scripted to me, especially, the RPG shot at the end where he shoots the building. I mean, come on, surely they wanted to show off the destruction there. But yeah, either way, I'm looking forward to seeing more footage in the future and hopefully getting to even try it out with some of you guys. Here's another one from Bence, and this is in direct reply to the trailer that came out there with the Battlefield Labs. He says, it's impossible to say anything. 2042 looked promising, and we all know how that turned out. David says, it plays great too, but there's no need to trust me. Register for Labs to find out for yourself. It's all in the gameplay. And he said this again and again, that they're putting gameplay first this time. I'm sure they're going to have fancy trailers and all of that. I mean, it's DICE and EA, of course they will. But I think the majority will have a chance to actually play test the game. And then again here, in relation to the trailer, I commented on this particular aspect of it in my video that it kind of looked a bit similar to Battlefield 2042. And Dr. Zeb here, he says, David, in the new video, are these 2042 running animations / placeholders, or are they new? And David says, it truly is pre-alpha and we are polishing it and fixing bugs daily. I'm pretty sure these animations are updated from the last one as we rebuilt the whole first-person, third-person setup from scratch. So the way I interpret this is he's saying that the animations that they have now in the build aren't the ones that we saw in the trailer. The ones we saw there are from some old build where they took that build of the game, they then branched it off and started making a trailer from it. Meanwhile, the main branch of the game continued and was updated, and indeed the animations that we saw there were probably ripped from Battlefield 2042 and were indeed placeholders, so that's really good to hear there as well. So what do I actually want to see from the next Battlefield game? I mean, wow, there's just so many great things from past games. I think Battlefield 3 for me and Battlefield 4 probably had the best level design. They had a really great selection of maps as well. There weren't just large open maps, they were also mid-sized maps with maybe, one or two, maybe like a single tank on there, maps like Propaganda from BF4. And then you also had a lot of great maps for close quarters. I mean, look at some of the DLCs we got out of those games. Battlefield 3 Close Quarters DLC, every map in there was fantastic. I really like the Aftermath DLC as well, so if we're looking at live content here and the maps that we're going to be getting down the line, I really think they ought to be looking at those two games. Also, the progression of them was really solid. I don't know why they ever did away with the service stars that you got for the weapons in those games. You could work your way up to 100 stars, and then you had fully mastered the weapon. It was nothing fancy, but I think a lot of people really enjoyed following that, and then they just did away with that system, really, and replaced it with like the tier 1 skins, so not really sure why that was a thing. It kind of goes without saying, but obviously if there's one thing I could say to DICE, it would be to give us the vehicle play from Battlefield 4, ground vehicles, air vehicles, it doesn't matter, it was all the best in BF4, and if you disagree with me, fight me, like, that's just the way it is, man. BF4 was the king of vehicle play. Now, from Bad Company 2, I would love to see the destruction and the sound design. The destruction seems to be coming along from judging by what we've seen from the trailer. As for the sound design though, I actually did a video on this a few years back now, comparing the sound design of Battlefield 5, I think it was BF3, BF4, and Bad Company 2. And for me, Bad Company 2 was just an absolute winner. It had like the tinnitus sound from all of the explosives. If you shot a gun inside a house, it was absolutely deafening. It was so immersive and just realistic. I absolutely loved it. So that's definitely like the winner there for me. Again, on the side of destruction, I would also maybe like to see Levolution come back from BF4. This might be a bit of a controversial one because there were certain maps that were maybe worse because of the Levolution, like Siege of Shanghai. You know, after the skyscraper fell down, I think a lot of people felt like the map simply became worse. But it was pretty damn cool. They kind of went for the same thing in 2042 with the tornadoes. I was not as much of a fan of the weather effects in that game and like the dust storms coming in, but a lot of those large scale events like the skyscraper coming down, I certainly think they could do with revisiting those. Obviously, Battlefield 1, the best atmosphere and probably the best graphics, maybe graphics along with Battlefield 5, but BF1 was just the outright winner there, even though it was never really my cup of tea. As a Battlefield title, I'm not a big World War guy. I cannot deny that the atmosphere in the game and the look of the game, the aesthetic, was just... It's just one of the best looking games ever, especially for a multiplayer game. So the ambience of that game, the immersion, I really think they need to bring that back into the new Battlefield. Battlefield 5, I think, character movement, it was pretty good. Like, so movement is a bit controversial again in Battlefield. Lots of people want to see it slow down and go back to the way it used to be, like in Bad Company 2 or even Battlefield 2 way back in the day, but it doesn't really line up with modern shooters these days. Of course, we've got like sliding and jumping around corners, a lot of that sort of stuff, so it depends what kind of a player you are. Of course, Battlefield 5 had like the crouch running and it's got the fortifications and all of that sort of stuff in there. Personally, I'd like to see some of that stuff come back, but I don't think we need too many like fast, cheesy mechanics. You know, if you look at Battlefield 4 with the Zuzu and the crazy jumping around corners, like I know I do that sort of stuff myself because I'm sure I'm going to get called out for it here in the video, but that's just because that's just kind of how you have to play the game, right? But I think they should put a stop to some of that by punishing you for jumping around a corner, like maybe you just can't shoot with your weapon when you do that. And then I think finally here, if we go all the way back to a good old Battlefield 2, the first Battlefield game that I ever played, what I would like for them to take from that title is to simply stay true to what Battlefield is. I think that game wasn't trying to be anything else but itself, if that makes sense. I'm sure a lot of you have never played that game. Hopefully some of you watching have. Let me know in the comments down below if you're one of them. But Battlefield 2 was a game that knew exactly who its audience were, and it tried to cater to that audience. It wasn't trying to attract as many people as possible, a cast as wide a net as possible, to pull in people from all these different genres, and whilst I'm sure that's exactly, of course, what EA want to do, they don't really care about, like, the Battlefield community, right? They just want as many players on board to play their game as possible, to buy skins, to buy cosmetics, battle passes, purchase the game itself and whatnot. That's what they're after, so I'm not sure that's really going to happen, but I don't see any way that they can do that without making compromises on who this new Battlefield game is actually for. Like, who is it going to be built for? Especially with them talking about it being this massive Battlefield universe with lots of different ways to play the game. I don't know, that still has me a little bit worried. I think they're going to go after too wide of a community again, trying to appeal to too many people, and like the old saying goes, a game for everyone is a game for no one. Either way, I certainly look forward to trying it for myself, but I'll be interested to hear what you guys think about the next game. What parts from previous Battlefield games would you all like to see brought into the new game? Leave me a comment and let me know down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.